You're not free. Trust me, this is not freedom. You're a slave.
I mean, that is a very profound concept you've just given us, and there's a lot of things to take out of the box. When did you realize that you were inside of a box yourself?
A lot of us, I come from that area as well, where I was a product of my circumstances for 25 years.
If I don't move forward, if I don't do things that excite me, like my spirit would die.
Hello and welcome back to Wiser Together. This is your host Parmeet Kumar with your co-host Anastasia. Thank you all for joining us and being a part of this, supporting us in all the ways you have been and will continue to do so. We truly appreciate it. And yeah, let's get this episode started. How are you doing, my brother?
I am doing great, brother. How about you?
I'm doing
How are you settling in the new house?
I'm doing very well, settling in well as well. Very grateful to be here. Things are smoothing out now and everything is coming back on track. So, really glad for that. I'm extremely excited for today's episode
Okay,
because we're going to talk about
definitely.
conditioning.
Yeah,
We'll basically go over what conditioning is, how you how you go through a certain kind of conditioning your whole life, how that restricts you from growing and evolving, uh, how you can step outside that box and overcome that, and just not be a product of the circumstances around you. So I think it's a very interesting one because everyone goes through this in their own ways, right? We all are conditioned to certain way of being, certain way of living, certain way of speaking, writing, looking, questioning, engaging with people, conditioned to comprehending certain situations in a certain way, and so on and so forth. It genuinely dictates 99% of your life
it
as you
does.
are, whatever you do, right?
It
Because it's
does.
your first instinct. So, what is conditioning? Let's start there. What is conditioning? How I think of it is your reality is your box, right? That has been conditioned since day one. Since the day you were born, you've grown up witnessing a certain kind of life, what people wear, how people speak, how do people react. This is what you're observing in your early years, right? Your subconscious mind develops the most until the age of 7. So up until that age, you're mostly just observing and building your subconscious mind, which then becomes your intuition, right? So the surrounding you're in, the things you see, how people react in front of you, what kind of energy do they have, all these things are, although like people don't remember a lot of their early ages, all these things very much influence how we'll live our life when we're grown up, right?
I guess,
When
like
we're
you
grown up,
said, like all of these things combine to build a box. Is that what you're trying to say?
yes, so these things, through no uh, intervention of your own, you build this box around you just based on your surrounding and your circumstances. Your surrounding and what circumstances they bring, right? You
Yeah.
build a certain box around you, and that when you're become an adult, that becomes your reality. Your reality is how you perceive the world,
Okay.
right? How I perceive it and how you perceive it may be
Very
very
different.
different, even
Very
though we're
different.
very close, right? Uh, I've seen world in a different way than you have. I've been to different places than you have. I've been around different people than you have. And it's not just even about our surrounding, it's also about how we perceive that surrounding and unfold certain situation and experiences in our head,
Absolutely.
right? And that's very much so there's two things, right? There's nature and nurture. Nature is something that you have, and then nurture is something you get from the world, and you can change it. So this part of it very much comes from the nature side of it, right? In your very early years, you can't decide where to be, who to be with. you're grown up in a certain household, certain surroundings, certain society, and that determines your subconscious mind, which then when you grow old, most of the decisions come from that. So this is your box, right? Your box of reality, right? Certain things you don't know, certain things you can't comprehend, certain things you can't even think of. Like right now, if I told you, can you build a rocket to go to space, or if I told you, can you run 100 kilometers, both are unfathomable. You can't understand them. You'll put them in the same category, which is outside your box,
Correct.
right? You can't even. I always come back to the running 100-kilometer example because it's very relatable and personal to me, so I can explain it in the best way possible, right? And I feel like a lot of us, I come from that area as well, where I'm was a product of my circumstances for 25 years. Just uh, my surroundings have certain circumstances, and I'm a product of that. I'll be doing what my surrounding is doing. I'll have the habits the surroundings have. My speech will also be kind of what my surrounding has, right? The things I'm doing, the outings I'm going to, the people I'm talking to, the way I'm engaging with them, the habits I have, it's all in your surrounding, right? So my surrounding never allowed me to even think of running more than 20, 30, 40, whatever kilometers, right? It's all in the same category because it's outside the box, be it 20, 30, 40, or 100, right? So this is your box, and it's made up of your, obviously, your perception, certain ideas, certain beliefs that you've unwillingly taken up since a very early age, and that's what your subconscious mind is made of, right? uh, Things outside this box we don't understand, and breaking this box can be very uncomfortable because it's unfamiliar,
Hmm.
right? Now you have a box and I have a box. When they come together, there is a certain overlap, right? There are certain things that you do and I do, and we both understand it in a similar way. So that part in me relates with that part in you. And that's the connectivity we have with each other,
Yep.
right? And this can go in two ways. That's one part that we can relate on, and that part in me connects with that part in you that does the same thing, or life's doing the same thing. And then there's another part which is which can either collide or come together. And this is a part that I don't have in me, and this is a part that you don't have in you.
Very
So
interesting.
yeah. So there's certain things in your reality in your box that don't exist in mine, and there's certain things in my reality in my box that don't exist in yours, right? So when they come together, either those beliefs can collide, right? Or they can expand
Turn
your.
into collaboration.
Yeah. So basically, if I learn something from you, I will
Hmm.
expand my box of knowledge or the box of reality that I live in. And that expansion is credit to you, is credit to your box. And
Hmm.
then we relate on that
That
as
is
well.
very interesting.
Yeah. And then this could go the other way around as well. If I'm very, if subconsciously I'm someone who's not open and willing to engage and learn new things and open to new ideas, or
Like you
just
have
willing to
a smaller box?
close minded mentality per
Okay.
se,
Okay.
right? So when you give me certain ideas, beliefs, and opinions, I go against them, I repress myself, and I just make the boundaries of my box stronger because I've questioned myself, and you've given me a certain opportunity to grow or expand my thinking. But I ignore that and I sit tight with the current beliefs I have. That just goes to, strengthen, if strengthen is the right word, but
Yeah.
strengthen the limitations of your box because you've reconsidered what your box is, and then you vouch to stay in this box again.
Hmm.
So that understanding of your reality and box gets deeper and deeper. So this is what happens when you collide. And then obviously this, being a product of your circumstances, this keeps evolving and evolving as we go on and on and on through our surroundings and products and circumstances. Obviously, if we're hanging around with a certain kind of people, right, that's the kind of energy we're emitting and attracting. So the life will keep evolving in that certain direction right? If my surrounding and my circumstances never allowed me to even think of 100 kilometers, run 100 kilometers, I would never do that, correct? So, what do you think of this? What do you think of the box and how our surroundings play such a crucial role in our growth and upbringing and life?
I mean that is a very profound concept you've just given us, and there's a lot of things to take out of the box. No pun intended.
Yeah.
but but yeah, I mean, look, like as we were discussing before we started the podcast as well, like this is conditioning is such a huge and such a relevant and such a personal topic to each and everyone. And to start off, I love how you've given it the concept of a box, because I mean, first of all, conditioning is just so subliminal. It just happens so subtly throughout the years of your life, like you mentioned, through
Hmm.
family, friends, school. You know, this is something that I learned in sociology, because these are your primary. I forgot the word, but like yeah,
Parameters.
yeah, like primary like sources of conditioning, basically, because these are like, you know, like your first, and like you said, you know, you're born, and then you know the first interaction is with your family, your parents, right? Then your siblings, then your relatives, then you go to a school, then over there you meet your teachers, friends, and then there is media as well nowadays. So these are your primary like sources of conditioning. And you know, like one might even spend their entire life and they might not even know that they were inside a box, and they might never ever like come out of it and do the things, like for example you mentioned, which are outside of the box, such as, like, again, like basic examples, like you mentioned, running 100 kilometers or building a rocket ship. So I love the idea of this, because I feel like the first step towards, I don't know, I think you will tell us, like, should we break out of the box or should we make our box bigger? But like this is the first step, realizing that you have, through these interactions, through these conditioning, put yourself in a box. And there's only like what I can, like, if I were to paint a picture, like, or to illustrate in my head, like, you know, like I'm just like inside a square room now, based off of my interaction and based off my, like you said, like we are a circumstance of our surroundings. So I only have certain room to either go forward, backward, right, or left, because that is my box, or jump higher, or you know, like dig deeper. So this is what I'm gathering so far right now. I think I have many questions, and like the first of them would be like, for you, when did you realize that you were inside of a box yourself?
This happened with in. It wasn't like an overnight thing. It happened in small phases as I started my journey to spirituality, if you want to call it that. But uh, I came across it a little bit, and I had these small epiphanies. I had one in 2015, then I had one in 2019, and then they kept growing and growing and growing. And I just realized that this sentence is so applicable to everyone. You're a product of your circumstances, and if you are a product of your circumstances are only uh, you can put them in a box as well. So you are a product of that box, right? So that means you will continue to live the life that your circumstances bring you, and that means like you can never expand into something that was not written for you, right? If that makes sense.
It makes sense.
So it happened in phases and it came along. And the first thing was I need to break out of this. How do I understand this more? How do I be more open? How do I find ways to expand these boundaries and limitations? So don't get me wrong, everyone in this world has that box, you know? If you're just an accumulation of certain opinions, beliefs, and ideas and perceptions, right? And everyone has that. It just comes down to the border and the limitation around that box, how rigid and thick it is, which makes you very close minded and regressive to new things, or how fluid, adaptive, open minded, and just open it is to explore new things, experiment, keep growing. How uh, strongly do you hold this identity of yours, and how much of it is determined by the circumstances around you? So the biggest limitation I had was that what my perception of my box and my surrounding was, and everything that I used to do. I'm not sure how many of you can relate to this part of it, and if you can, please tell me, because this is very interesting to me. I went through this for a long time in my life, right? I had a certain perception of what my box is, what is good, considered bad, what is appreciated, what is not appreciated in my box of life, in my reality, in my surrounding, in my friend circle, right? And I always used to, whatever I'm supposed to do, I'd always look myself through a lens of perception. Now that perception is built up of how will I be perceived in this box of reality doing a certain thing, right? And that comes from a collective opinion of there's just this voice, and how you perceive yourself, and how you perceive yourself is through the eyes of how you perceive yourself is based on how you think you would be perceived by your surrounding, your friends and society, which is your box of reality, right? It's not necessarily I have a single perception in my head. Oh, what will this person think if I do this, or what will this person think if I do this?
It's an accumulation of
That
all of their
Yeah,
perceptions. Okay.
exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
it's an accumulation of certain opinions that are driven from my box of reality, right? And I'm looking at myself through that lens, and every action that I take, everything that I do comes from that position, because that is my perception of me. That then becomes my identity. If that then becomes my identity, everything then is based on how that sits with that perception.
Okay. Like basically what they would think.
Basically, what people would think. Like, this thing was my biggest limitation in life, to be honest. I always used to do things for the longest part of my life. I always used to do things not because I genuinely wanted to do them. And I genuinely feel a lot of people go through this because we live in the same society. It doesn't come from like within, like, yeah, I genuinely, yeah, some things I definitely want to do myself. And that's the initial thought. That's why I think of doing it. But then that is quickly analyzed and looked upon from that lens of perception, right? That lens that is made up of how will this be perceived by this collective opinion that I have, which is basically log kya kahenge. We have this very uh, uh, popular saying in our society, right? Log kya kahenge, right? And you must have heard like so many times, people don't do half the things they want to do because log kya kahenge,
See,
which
this is
basically translates to what will people say.
absolutely. This is okay. So I have a very I have a burning question. The burning
Yeah.
question is that when you were doing these things, did you realize this that you were doing these things out of that particular perception, like you said, like depending on what people would say?
I
Were you conscious at that
I
time while doing those things?
I not fully. I knew what I was doing, but to me at the time that was my identity, right? That was how things would generally happen for me, and
Okay,
I feel like
let's
for a lot of people.
break it down as well. Like, for example, what do you mean by this? Like, if I were to say, like, the clothes that you used to wear, or like the picture that you used to post, or the gifts that you used to do, or the restaurants that you used to go, like, how does it factor down to like, like what
These are
actions?
small
Yeah.
things. Obviously, those are also made up on. And now this goes very deep down, because this is a very monotonous task. You do this every day. You're wearing clothes every day, right? Uh, that thought process is very much streamlined. You won't even know. You just do it subconsciously. It just happens,
No,
right? But deep down,
but
that's
for example, like the like if let's just talk about clothes, like the fashion sense that you would use, that you would adopt, is it because of what you would like to wear or what you would like people to see you wear? Just as an
so
idea.
it's okay. So it's I want to make a very clear differentiation here. This part, it's a bit of both, because what I wear and what I do, things that are within that box of reality, I don't think of it much like that. If I'm trying to step outside that box, if I, let's say, wear X kind of clothes and then I start wearing Y kind of clothes, which is not very much familiar to this box of reality that I have, then that perception would appear. Oh, how would this be received by that lens? Does it make sense?
Yes, yes.
Like normal day to day task, it's just normally, you know how this is. Like everybody does this, right?
Okay.
But let's say if I start, I don't even know like how to what some kind of clothes that are not that would be very much criticized in Pakistan. I don't
Yeah.
know, but whatever
I
that may
mean,
be.
let's just take your tattoo for example, right? Like this is something that
Yeah.
is definitely like in our society, like because as everyone knows that Pakistan is a predominantly Muslim country, and tattoo is something which is against the religion over there. So let's just take it from there. Like, what was the process
Well,
behind that?
for tattoo itself as well, personally, it wasn't much because it was still in my box of reality, like the kind of friends and surrounding I had, it was considered very cool and stuff.
Yeah.
So that thought, log kya kahenge, what will people say, didn't struck me in that situation. It only strikes me in situations where I'm trying to step outside the box, where I'm trying to detach from this identity that I have, that is reality that I have, and then being there because you step outside of it, then you're alone and you're being looked at through that lens. Then I would think stepping outside this box, not being a product of the circumstances, how will that be received?
Okay.
Only when you're stepping outside.
When we launched the first episode, or let's say the teaser
Yeah.
of ISO together, what was the box saying?
Okay, so this is a very interesting question. This was a time where I was conscious. Obviously, these thoughts are still there. It's just how you deal with them is very different now. So I all I had was negativity, to be honest. Uh,
Okay, that is very
uh,
interesting. I did not know about that.
the first perception how this will be received, people will call you pretentious and just trying to get attention and doing this and
Uh-huh.
that and
Uh-huh.
being they wouldn't know the real reason why I'm doing this. People might think you're doing it to be popular on YouTube or make money or this and that, and these were the initial thoughts that were coming. Right? But
No money. No
and
money up till now.
no money at
No money up
all.
till now. Sorry, please
But
go on.
generally for me those things are very like, it's full of criticism and negativity personally. But now I'll talk about how I stepped outside that box and conditioning and
That
how
is
you can do the
beautiful. I
same
did
for
not know
yourself.
that. I guess I never asked this question. We never got down to it, but I didn't know that
Yeah.
you were met with that because, damn, I mean, here we are 5 months later, and it seems like nothing hit you, and you are doing this flawlessly and for all the right reasons. And like this is something I think that the answer to this question, "Log kya kahenge" or what will people say, I believe is rather than just like talking back to them is just by showing. And like we don't need to talk about how many lives that we've changed so far, either in a small or a big fashion. We never claim to do so, but always talking about such things and asking
Help.
people, yeah, asking people the right questions, or having those segments, or just like even our guests coming in, and whenever they leave or whenever they text us back, they're always, it's just that like we are adding value, that's it. And that in itself is the answer to the voices for the box. So
Yeah.
up till now, I mean, this is a very interesting way that you have like put this into a box again, because yeah, please go ahead.
I want to know your as well. Did you have like these thoughts of Loki? You know how like this is so prevalent in our society. We see it all day in our houses, in the TV, on the TV, the dramas we have. You know, when certain person is trying to do something outside the box, you're like, "Oh, log kya kahenge? What will people say?" And you're instantly struck by this uh, judgment of coming from this lens, which is made up of the collective opinion of how you perceive, how you think others perceive you.
No, I mean, if you were to ask me, I mean, I don't know. This is what I always think. I don't know if I ever was or not or still am. I mean, I'll be very honest. So as ever since a child, I've
Because
been
you do some stuff which are outside the box for sure, and you always
absolutely
have. In school as well, you've
yes.
done like stuff that I wouldn't even dare to do. Like it takes a lot of guts and
Yeah,
courage and confidence to, like
that's what I'm saying. To be honest, like ever since I was a kid, I've always been a big dreamer. Like to be honest, like at this, it's just so embarrassing. Like sometimes I just when I'm hearing a song or when I'm like in a particular frequency, I'll just have these grand ideas and grand visions about myself that I'm not sharing with anyone right now, but I do. And Superior Anas is one of those things that I've been able to
yeah,
like picturize. But to be very honest, ever since like I was a kid or a teenager or whatever, i've just I've just had this immense sense of like confidence about myself and like belief about myself that I can do anything. And like you mentioned, because of just that belief, that mentality of just do it, is just like like how do I say, like if I don't do this, if I don't step out of my box, I think I'll die. I'll be very honest. Like, okay, so how I see this is that, okay, like, okay, our body is already dying. Like just like breathing every day, the warm blood.
every day. Yeah.
Yes, the warm blood. Because
Every day you get closer to that.
yes, but if I were to like picturize it, like illustrate it, like okay, so we're made out of like how do I say, like in Urdu we call it mitti, like like dust or
Sand.
yeah, like
Yeah.
sand,
Particles.
yeah, like so when we have like dust coming out of our body as well, that's why we shower, blah blah blah. But how I see it is that every day when you're breathing, when there is warm blood circulating from your brain to your toes and back and forth, you're already in a fight. Okay, now why I say this is because when you die, your body starts decaying, right? Because now there is no supply of fresh and warm blood, so you're dying, then your body starts decaying, it automatically, like that is the word, decay, it start deteriorating, right? So to me, I'm already struggling, I'm already fighting every day. And I think I already knew this concept that if I don't move forward, if I don't do things that excite me, I will die, like mentally, like my spirit would die. And there has always been that thing inside of me, like in Urdu again we call it like this kira, like this insect that has been inside of me to just do things, to just like go. And I really don't know where that came from. And I think the first time when I really stepped outside of the box was when I was in city school, right? I was in this boys campus, all boys campus, and it's horrible. It's like I would rather stay in the Sahara Desert thirsty than go back to a boys' school, or
Yeah.
send anyone to a boys' school. Okay, it was horrible. It was a jungle, like astaghfirullah. So there was this company that came, like it was like a milk of like flavored company, blah blah blah. They came, right? And they like, and then the whole school came out in assembly, and then they wanted to do like a show, like a talent show and shit, right? So they were asking for students to show their talents. And I don't know, I really don't know, I swear to you, I don't know what got into me. I raised my hand, I went there, I started dancing. It was, I am crying right now just even thinking about it. Thank God, thank God there were no phones or anything. But I just started dancing, and people were laughing, people were like enjoying or whatever their thing was. But when I came out of it, I had such an adrenaline rush that I was like, I know I made a fool out of myself, but I was proud at that same time, because I and the, let's say, the 10 other kids did something what the entire school didn't do. So that
Yeah.
was my first instance of getting out of the box. And ever since, I kid you not, it has been on autopilot. Like I've had no mentors so far, like up till now, up to the past 2.5 years in my life, or anyone telling me to do these things. It has just been out of curiosity. It has just been out of the fact that okay, let's see what like what this brings. And just, I'm not even kidding you. Like I'm just trying, like, because I love the way that you've been able to describe this and literally like have this idea, this concept of a
Break it
box.
down. Yeah.
Yeah, but for me, I, with a lot of things as well, like like we talked about, like mindfulness and consciousness, I had no idea. Like things have been autopilot for me.
Yeah,
Maybe
I see that as well.
yeah, maybe now, like I do things because in the interest of time, and I'm getting older and just realizing that now, like things have to be done in a certain way. But before, the things that I used to do, the things that I used to say yes for, like I had a band as well. Like we
I
performed
know,
in
I
front
know.
of a
That's what I'm
school as
saying.
well. Like there is a music video as well that I would never share the link to. Not that I'm not proud, but it's just amazing. And like to be very honest, I'm glad because like how do I say, like I mean, I've had friends who I've always shared that like I want to do this, I want to do that, and there is nothing more that I love to do, like but with a friend, because when okay, so like you and I are doing this together, I love this because I already knew you from before. And when you struggle more with a friend, you release a hormone called oxytocin, right? Sorry if I'm getting the
Hmm.
name wrong, right? So
Oxytocin.
yeah, so this basically helps, like this is a binding like hormone that just binds together with, I don't know, your memory gland or something. I'm going to mix up the biology here, but the fact is that like the oxytocin released between you and I while doing Wiser together, it helps create a more stronger bond. So again, to answer your question simply, I have no idea. All I can recall is that ever since I was a child, I've had these fantasies, these dreams, or these daydreams that you would call it, but very, very grand. And now I'm working towards those to get there. Let's see what happens. But ever since I've had these, I guess the way I'm built physically also really helped because it just made me really stand out always. I never really tried to, but because of my voice, because of my height, because of the way that I look, it really just made me stand out and allowed and gave me the confidence. Again, because this is what we talked about in the self-belief episode as well. Like it has to do genetically
Yeah.
as well, right? Because
Yes.
because again, I kid you not, I had no training. No one came and told me do this, do that, yada 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 yada. I just used to watch YouTube videos and movies and just get inspired by them, I guess, and anime. I guess that really helped. That was my conditioning. But yes, so nothing of that sort. And to be very honest, everything that I do, I and everything that I will do outside of the box, those were just completely autopilot, impulsive decisions. That's it. So that was for me. And when I like because I know you for about good 10 years now, and like when you told me about Wiser Together, and especially starting with Project Deep Dive, which was your personal podcast with the close
Yeah.
people that you have in your life, to me that was a big statement. Like that was not even out coming outside of the box. That was you taking a hammer
Way
and,
out.
and
Yeah.
demolishing the box. So that was very interesting for me to know that. And I guess I am not surprised because of uh, like the people that we have in our box, in our surrounding, that the sort of flack that you might have gotten. And I mean, like we always say that this is just the start and like what things could be. And I would say you can expect a lot more coming to you as well. So
For sure.
yeah, so having said that, like I want to understand more about your perception of surrounding, like the decision that you especially used to make based on what your surroundings, especially the close people in your life, like let's say like your close family members and your close friends, like based on them, when did you start thinking like it's a good idea to go against the voices of the box?
Like I mentioned, I was always a product of my circumstances. I'm not trying to say my circumstances were bad necessarily. They're amazing. I've been surrounded by amazing, amazing people. I'm very grateful for my siblings, my friends, my family. Uh, Grown up with a lot of privilege, and I'm absolutely grateful for that. One thing was that, and this is prevalent in not just Pakistan, pretty much most of the society, that, and I don't know if it comes from capitalism or the people at the higher stage wanting to live you in a certain way, but we all want to be comfortable and we all want to live the life. We all want to be mediocre, right? I never saw people going outside that box, people doing great things, right? Uh, never didn't see a lot of hustlers, didn't see people around me that I was really inspired by. And I was like, no, I this is what I want to be, or someone I admire to be like. So for me, it was, I was just unhappy in the position I was. I realized that
So let
even though my
let me
surround,
get this straight. You were unhappy in the
yeah,
position you were, despite having a, like, I would say, like, thanks to God, like, like a comfortable life. You were still unhappy. That's a
not
very
comfortable, not just comfortable,
okay,
very comfortable.
very
Like you
comfortable.
know me, I was
Yes,
very comfortable.
yes.
And it just, it people obviously think of it in a different way, right? They want to first have basic needs fulfilled, then security, then social, then psychological, and then you reach
Yeah,
self
I want to add
actualization.
one more thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Sorry,
yeah, go on.
because this is okay. This is something that I when we started, like, I saw a certain person who, again, like, there are people, like we say that we have crabs and stuff and blah blah blah, but there was this one particular guy who I think is doing good for himself, like, per se he's an entrepreneur, like, doing very well, at least this is what he shows himself to be on, like, social media. But then once, like, we started sharing our stuff and everything, I saw him make a smirk comment about this podcast and thing. And this is, I just want to clear the air, or because first of all, we don't care, because like we started, like, in the first episode we said that this is a selfish thing. Once we're done with this, once we wrap up this episode, it just makes us feel so incredible because we're able to share and discuss and learn about these ideas such as the box, and this is for ourselves. So the comment that this guy made was around the lines that, you like, okay, I don't remember the exact comment, neither I would like to, but the idea that he was trying to convey is that here are two guys who have a comfortable life, who have nothing or should have nothing to complain about, and should just shut up and do their own thing. But this idea of the podcast might be just to get attention, might be, like when they say rich people problem or like first world country problem, he was trying to point it towards that. Essentially what he was trying to say is that you guys don't need to do this because no one cares, and because your problems are irrelevant to the problems shared by other people. Which, like, again, like I said, I really couldn't care less. But the idea is that no matter how privileged, like, this is what Hamad Motiwala came and said, that everyone is struggling, be it
And they're
poor,
struggling,
be it
yes.
rich. Damn, I mean, Michael Jordan would be struggling at one point when Kobe Bryant showed up. Right now he has competition. I mean, he could just rely on his skill and his ability, but now he has a competition and he is struggling. This is what happened to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar when Magic Johnson came in, because now Magic Johnson wants to take the team from him. So the idea is that this podcast or any other podcast or any other thing that you might say, and if you might look at a person who are at a privileged or a comfortable position, and if they are sharing their problems or if they are sharing their struggles, yes, their struggles you might not be able to relate to, but those are struggles at the end of the day. And hey, if you're not at that socioeconomic level right now, one day you will. And one day the problems
Then
that
you
they are
realize.
sharing, yeah, you're going to share those problems as well. And it's always so good to daydream, and it's always so good to fantasize. This is how I got here as well. If I never really fantasize about things, if I never really daydreamed about things and my
Yeah,
disgusting things that I think about, I wouldn't be here and I wouldn't be going to the places that I'm going. So just wanted to add a little caveat here for the people who might think that this is irrelevant to them or yada yada yada. Listen, and you might just learn something. So back to you.
yeah. So for me, it wasn't like, I was like, I'm so comfortable, so privileged. I've got everything. Like, why am I not happy? And then I realized that with through meditation and being more spiritual, and going for the retreats that I went, I realized this, and it was mostly because I was living my life looking at it from this lens, right? Whatever was perceived good or bad to this lens would then become my identity. So sort of most of my validation would come from outside, right? And I say that very genuinely and openly. Like, I was this person, right? And to still to some extent, like, the initial thought is that, but every day I'm trying to change that. And I can only tell you this and be vulnerable and open if I have if I did overcome it. Nobody's gonna tell you that they're getting their validation from outside if they are getting it from outside. You know what I mean?
Correct.
So because that validation was coming from outside, I was just there was just so much. It was just all automatic. Just there was nothing too outside the box. I knew like if I'm going on this trajectory, like my circumstances are good and stuff, I'll follow life in a certain way. There's no greatness to be achieved or explored, right? And now what I'm the things I'm doing, trust me, I'm criticized a lot, not just by society or friends, by family as well, which is absolutely fine, as they should, because they're trying to project their box on
They
you,
care.
and that's fine. And they care as well, but they're trying to project their box on you, and that's fine. People closest to me, they don't understand the purpose of it. They don't understand why we're doing
And they
podcasting
don't
or
need to. And honestly, they don't need to. These are your things.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is what I get this is what I genuinely deep down want to do without any validation from outside. I get it from myself just from doing it, running 20, 30, 40 kilometers and keep moving forward. I'm just trying to explore how far can I go? How much can I redraw those boundaries? With running, boxing, podcasting, different things. Very exciting. I'm very glad. And certain people perceive you in a certain way that, oh, this person was never like this. What is this doing? And what is this? And it doesn't sit right with their box of reality, or it reminds them of something they don't want to be reminded of. And which is perfectly fine if we don't exchange that energy. I wish you all the best and all the love. Do what you like doing and keep doing that. If we exchange certain kind of energy, then I'll relate with you and we obviously like engage in stuff. But if it's all if you don't understand it, you don't understand it. Like there's plenty of people in this world, and you can choose to share your energy with whoever you please, right? So that's why we're doing this as well, because we exchange this energy and put it out there and amplify it, and bring about a community who has a similar way of thinking. Just live and let live at the end of the day. If I am to summarize in a couple of words, that okay. So this validation part is very, very big, very big, very big. Like if I was living according to those circumstances, trust me, even though I know if I ran 100 kilometers, that will be like people will be puzzled, like how did this happen? This is so crazy. So I will get all the validation that I want from it, but I can tell you, I would never be able to do it because it's not coming from. I'll never be able to do something just because the people around me validate it, right? You can't just run 100 kilometers. That okay? Anybody who runs 100 kilometers, you'll validate them, right? Can they do it just based on that? No, they need to find that self belief within themselves and that validation within themselves that they want to do it. How people react to it, good or bad, it's welcome, appreciated, but doesn't change your trajectory of how you're gonna live. You're regardless gonna keep doing those things. If we get 2 views or 100 views, we're regardless doing those things. So the validation coming from outside or not coming from outside, the whatever the perception is that's coming from outside, it doesn't really matter because it doesn't change the trajectory of our actions, right? So that's what it is, and I hope it's I mean, these are all like very philosophical
These are
and
amazing.
subjective, and yeah. So just like recognize the box you're in, because like if everyone has that box and everybody's doing those things, and much of your actions are determined on what your circumstances and surroundings are, which doesn't give you a lot of autonomy. Like you're not free. You're not free. Trust me, this is not freedom. You're a slave. I was too, and partially still am, which is what I'm trying to break free and help everyone else as well along the way. And I feel like you obviously have your own relationship with it, but we're definitely not free. People think freedom is just yeah, you're free on the outside in your reality, but you're not free in your mind. You're at the you're a slave to your feelings and emotions,
You
right?
know, like this made me think of something, and like it brought back like something that I saw. I won't name because it was such a controversial documentary. I'm not going to name because I don't want to be kidnapped. So, so the thing was,
Hmm.
when you mention about capitalism, I guess this is also a big trigger for me, because keeping that autopilot mindset aside, another thing, Parmeet, is this idea of rat race, the thing that you talked about, being a slave.
Yeah.
And we've talked about Matrix, which is, I recommend, like, is a movie that everyone must see, the original trilogy. And
Mm.
it will give you an idea what Parmeet is talking about, that, like how we're slaves. This is the part where he asks him to take the blue and the red pill. However, this is something like another documentary, which again I won't name, is something that I saw during my teenage years. And, this is where I also realized, I also picked up that, it's killed or be killed. What I mean by that is that either you take control of your life and you set,
Or somebody else will.
yeah, or somebody else will make decision. I am a slave. And it's again not like, because I love my job, I love my boss, those are things, right? But of course I'm selling my time for money, right? Now this might not be at the top of the list of the things that I would like to do in exchange for getting paid, but for now, at the circumstances, this is it. Okay. And
Means to an end. Yeah.
yeah, a means to an end. So basically what I want to say is that I'll just share a quick illustration with you guys. What I saw was that, just picture with me here, okay? I'll just like paint a picture with you,
Mm-hmm.
or like a visual movie, right? So what happens in this part of the documentary is that, there's a rat, and the world is made out of rat, right? Hence rat race. So the rat wakes up, the alarm is blaring, the rat wakes up, like with every other rat, like the screen turns into like a million rat screen, like, like a multi-screen sort of a thing.
Yeah,
Everyone is
yeah.
having their breakfast, everyone is brushing their teeth,
Brushing.
everyone
Yeah.
is getting into the car at the same time, everyone is going to the same particular location where all the offices are located, everyone is stuck in traffic, everyone is honking and blaring because everyone wants to get to the office in time, and everyone is then working, like strapped to their screens. So this particular rat, when he gets to his desk, what happens is that, imagine like a mouse trap, right? And at the end of the mouse trap there's $100 bill. So as soon as he tries to get it, the mouse trap comes in, and now his hands are locked, and now he has to work to get the money. And then,
Oh,
yeah,
that's interesting.
yeah, that's interesting. And then, like everyone is just like like another screen that goes into like the scene is that everyone is on their phone, and there's a gutter opening. Everyone is just looking at their screen, swiping, and then they're falling into the gutter. So the idea is that, like you said, the first step would be like, and this really impacted me, it still impacts me now, and this is really what scares me every day, is that I don't want to be that rat. I don't want to be a part of that rat race. And, like, I'm going to ask you this, I'm going to come down to this, but for me, getting out of that rat race is choosing and prioritizing, like you were saying at the start of this video, prioritizing maybe, like how I spend my time, because doing this right now with a couple of other things is not easy. Like a family member was asking me as well, like, how are you managing time, how are you doing things that you're able to put out 20 episodes while working, while doing etc., having a social
Yeah.
life and balancing. This is what we talk to Umar as well. So people like Umar are gifted. There's an episode of Umar we did with Umar Jahangir. Again, phenomenal guy. I was blown away. I was like, damn,
Me too.
this guy is amazing. But the idea is that in order to get out of, like, first of all, is to recognize that you are in this race, that you are a slave, as you said. And it's scary because time goes by like this. I'm 27 and a half years old, and it really really scares me, not because I think I'm 27 and a half years young, not old, but it just really scares me because I'm about to enter into my 30s, having figured out nothing, right? So the first step for me was just like to have this idea that, we are a slave, and that every day, inch by inch, we must crawl out of this and
Out of it.
try to construct a life where you would have a say for yourself and like to do things yourself. And I believe I would like to thank you for like letting me understand this idea of the box, this idea that, we're an outcome of our circumstances, of our surroundings, and to be able to, like, because it's very hard to live outside of the box, because you have to, like, there are so many things that I would still like to do, but the box holds me back. But let's see, let's hope like one day we're able to have those circumstances, have those surroundings, by making and choosing the correct decisions. And by this, what I mean is adopt a healthy lifestyle, right? Adopt a lifestyle which gives you energy, which gives you vitality, which adds more to your time, which adds more to your value, and take out things which are keeping you down. Planning is one thing which is very, very important. Now, you might not be able to do planning because of lack of time, because you're investing your times with the wrong people, with the wrong decision, doing the wrong things. But that is a separate thing. For me, my journey, if I were to say in a minute, to get out of the box, is to feed my mind and my soul with the correct things, correct food, correct people, having the right conversation, choosing the right decisions, choosing the right places to go, and choosing the right things to do. And hopefully one day come out of that rat race, the illustration that I talked about. Hopefully to
Yeah.
not be like that. Hopefully every day, to not be stuck in the traffic jam, to not be doing the same things that people are doing, and thinking about the same thing, and just live my life like however I want to. Because this is what I realized: the thing that I used to do back in school, high school, or university, I was able to do that because I had like some sort of ample amount of time, and like youth was there as well. But as I grow older, I realized that options will get limited, because again, the
Hmm.
number one thing is that you sell your time in exchange for money, and that for most of the people is like a nail in the coffin. I see people, and I see it on their faces, and I know this is such a wrong thing to say, but you see it on their faces that they wanted to be and do things differently. And they could have wished to be in a different situation than they are at that point, and they might be happy right now. But I'm sure that if everyone could have a time machine to go back into, and to go back to their youth, they would do things differently. So what I'm coming down to is, what like, what would you do, what would you recommend to people to get outside of this box?
Or rather, what I have done. And I want to make a very clear differentiation first before I go into it. This box is nothing on the outside, it's just in your head. It's how you think, how you perceive things, and then how you act on them, right? It's nothing on the outside. It's not uh, the way you described it as well. It's a different way of looking at it. But the conditioning and the living in the box I'm referring to, it's all in your mind. It's all up here. It's basically your way of thinking, right? It's basically, you can bring it down to your way of thinking, because how you think, then you act on those thoughts, right? So the first thing would be to realize and be aware, right? That you are living in a box, that your thought process is limited by this way of thinking that you've adopted from the conditioning from your childhood, or how you had grown up and the surroundings you're growing up until this date, right? And it's all automatic. What's crazy is that our subconscious mind and the development of it is not even in our control. So we don't even choose the person that we are today. This is all by chance, and we are what we are today. And then we just keep carrying on based on those surroundings, right? But how you can change that now by changing your conditioning. And where that starts from is first realizing and aware, oh, this is the construct that I'm in, right? And then stepping out of it, right? Being observant. So now, when you step out of it, you are not your box. You are not your thoughts. You're just a vessel for them that is carrying through you. And then once you make that differentiation, you create space to add in more stuff, cultivate the box according to your now liking. Now that you are this conscious being and you know what you like and dislike, then you recreate that. Once you step out of it, first you were a part of it, now you've got a bird's eye view, and you're looking at this box as an observer. So you don't just look at the good in it, you look at the bad in it. And then not just looking at your own box, You can be observant and look at the boxes of others, and then cherry pick the things that you want and cultivate your own box, right? Which is what I'm trying to do now. And now this all seems, oh, how do you be observant? How do you be aware? How do you realize? There's tips and techniques that you can learn. Most of them are meditative things, because it's when it comes to mind, meditation is the best exercise for it, right? Once you learn that technique to be observant, to detach yourself from these thoughts that you have and not consider them your own, to detach yourself the box that you perceive and get a bird's eye view, be an observer, then your identity isn't so sensitively dependent on uh, your idea of you, right? You
Definitely.
can recreate that. You can detach from some things, and you can attach from some things, and you can let go of certain things. And that's what you can do. Like, once you just zoom out and be an observer, just look at it in the way that you are not your thoughts, and the box that you are not your box, right? That helps you remove those boundaries, look at it from a bird's eye view, and then recreate that. Now that just opens up space to get certain energy from different surroundings, whatever you want. I genuinely, the only reason I'm running 42 kilometers and then 100 kilometers is because I got in that observer's mind and I got certain energy from David Goggins. I read his book and I was inspired, and I was like, I like the mentality that he has to keep pushing your boundaries and testing your mind. And that is something that my conscious self now wants to do, right? And then you move on to, yeah.
So there is an element to get the box can get inspired by like or influenced by other things as well. Like
Yeah, so that it all starts from knowing yourself. Most people don't even know that they have these two voices within them. First is the subconscious mind, and second is the conscious mind. Subconscious mind is intuitive. It's made up of your conditioning in the past, and it's automatic, right? It's the first thought you get when you think of anything or experience anything. The first thought, not necessarily positive or negative. It's the result of this algorithm when it's fed with this kind of equation. That's the result you give you. First thoughts. You don't necessarily act on it always. Now, then there's your conscious being. A lot of people aren't even like conscious to that level where they deep down know what brings them pleasure, what situations they like being and not like being in. So when you meditate and stuff like that, what you're essentially doing is you're removing these layers of conditioning to go within your soul and truly like know what you like and dislike. Right now, your perception of your likes and dislikes is again your conditioning. You know what I mean? Not a single person that I know or was around for 25 years was into running or watching podcasts or this and that. This is then that just tells me, this is something that I really want to do. I went deep down while I was at my retreat. No phones, no laptop, no working out, just meditating 8 hours a day. And then I was just journaling. I was journaling about these things, that I want to start a podcast, I want to run this and that. At that time, I didn't even share it with anyone or had any kind of validation, you know. So it all starts from awareness, uh, meditating, and then that will help you detach from those layers of conditioning and be an observer, and then create space to redefine, redraw the boundaries around your box and how you would like for that to look like.
I mean,
Yeah.
that is profound. That is beautiful, and I've never met anyone who's been able to, literally paint a picture on this. Because first, I totally agree. Like first you need to realize, and I'm just like, and I'm sure everyone listening as well, they're able to paint a picture in their head that first of all we are in this box, and realizing, like for example, even if I'm looking right now, all I can see is a box, and like that's true because over there the wall, like the wall is saying that, Anas, like what will people say? Okay, is this something that you really want to do? Okay, like is this
All
okay?
sorts of
Yeah, is this okay with your
perceptions. Yeah.
relation? Like just the wall painted with all of these things. And
Or can you even do this? Like, it's
yeah,
like,
yeah, and and then just like when you try to like get outside of the box, it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of energy. And then, like you said, when you were talking, I was imagining myself outside of the box and I felt alone, I felt lonely. However, like I said, and this is different for every other person, for me it is like I just thank God, like the way I believe he has made me. Because again, I say this because I love my family, I love my friends, I've always had these supportive people around me. But never has someone like you know, like never, nobody told you to start running or like start podcasting. And it was the same with me. Like no one told me to start like act on in front of a stage, because I did these school plays as well, start a band, um go with these people to build the school, or come on the TV show, or like, you know, like ask question with a politician. Like, these are things that I just genuinely wanted to do myself, and I knew that nobody in this earth is going to stop me. So I just want to say this, have that realization, like Parmeet said, and like, you know, detach yourself from the box. And if I were to add my salt to it, is that I would say, like, just do it, because like I was saying that we're all going to die anyways, and you know, once we're dead, people will remember us maybe for a day, 2 days, or a week, etc., etc. And if you are that person who are not doing these things because of how you look, because of whatever your height is, because of whatever your skin color is, if you have a squeaky voice, or if you have a voice as deep as the Mariana Trench, I don't know. I mean, like, people have their, yeah, people have their reasons, people have their things. Or my favorite, and this is my favorite, that I don't have time. Okay, this is my favorite. Oh my God, the next
Yeah.
time, I swear, if I hear anyone who says I don't have time, no one has time. He has 24 hours, I have 24 hours. we
Everyone has the same
we
amount of time.
make time, we make time. It is absolutely the most laziest thing that I've ever heard in my entire life. No one has time, you have to make time. Don't watch that TV show, don't talk to that friend, don't cook a meal if it's going to take you 1 hour to cook it. Like, just try to.
See, it's just, yeah, you'll have to live with the consequences of it,
Yes,
whatever you do.
absolutely. So just go and do things. These, honestly, these reasons that you have in your head, I don't know you, Parmi doesn't know you, whoever is, you know, listening to you, or if you're a friend or a family member who is listening to it, no matter what your age is, if you're closer to death or
Hmm.
if you're just born, just go out and do that thing. It's going to be okay. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
If you want moral support, you can always hit us up. We'll be your first customers, will be the first people to listen to you, because we know how it feels. I know how it felt when I was sharing my story, when I went to that, like, floor in front of all these boys and started dancing. And I'm sure Parmeet would also know how he feels when he first, like, you know, when the first podcast came out and all of his friends and family saw. So these things will always stay with us. And you know what? Both of us are here telling you guys that it turned out to be amazing. And honestly, it got us so addicted that doing the things that we like outside of the box, it's like, you know, we're reshaping our own box. So I,
Yeah.
I think I had, these were all the questions that I had for you. I mean, go
I
ahead.
I
Yeah.
just want to say one last thing. This is like just going to this is no shortcut. We're not trying to advise that to anyone. Oh, you just go do it and your life change. This is a long, long journey. Moji says, if anyone knows who that is,
I
you have
don't
nothing to
know.
transcend. It's just one of these like spiritual teachers
Okay.
in the Caribbean, and he says that you have nothing to transcend in this life but your mind, right? And that takes time and practice, right? Everything lives here in your mind. Your reality is just a perception that's built up in your mind, and you can change that, right? Don't be wanting to step outside the box because that is what your circumstances tell you. Like, you could be doing it for good reasons, that people around you expect you to behave a certain way, which is not, which is basically stepping outside the box, and you do it for that reason. That would still not bring you the peace and happiness that you're wanting in life. It all starts from within. It all starts from within. If I had started this podcast, which is very much stepping outside the box, and I'm sure it's same for you, we wouldn't be able to hold on to it for long, because it's not something that we wanted to do, even though it's stepping outside the box. right? If we had started this from the perception that, oh, we'll be famous, people will look at us this way, this day, blah blah blah, whatever, that would never amount to anything, and you're still being a product of the circumstances. So it's in this way that when you go within and you really get your validation from that place and transcend your mind, and you really want to do it because you want to do it regardless of what kind of reaction it gets, that's a reason to be doing it, right? And this can be applied to these things, but also if you genuinely want to find the self belief to do impossible things that might seem impossible to you, transcend your fears, redraw your limitations, and there's so many that you can think of it own way. If you want to like make a note of three, four, five things and sit and reflect on that, that exercise might help as well. But there's so many things, but it all starts from going within, and it all starts from observing your mind. And you can try out whatever, there's hundreds of meditation techniques that you can try out, but they all help you be aware of who you are and of your soul, and detach you from the external perspectives and this narrative that is very much restricting for our society. Log kya kahenge, what will people say,
It is
right? So
it is so powerful, and I mean honestly, it for people this might be a shocker to them, and they might have to listen to this episode or some parts of this episode a couple of times just to understand, just to get that enlightenment. But if I were to give a very relatable example, guys, all of your favorite celebrities, any public figure or any person that you admire, okay, be it a man, woman, whatever, like in whatever capacity, or even an animal, okay, okay, all of them did this. They are there because they went through this journey that Parmeet talked about. They are there because they had that realization. And if you admire them, and if you like think that they
I wouldn't say all, like most of them. I feel like there's a lot of people who are rich and unhappy, and there's a lot of people who are poor and happy. And that what you can tell is that happiness would come from transcending your mind. There's people who think happiness comes from material things and money and that, and then they make a lot of money. I think Ryan Reynolds say this: I want everyone to make like $500 million so that they realize and know that money is not the answer. And once they get there, they're in the same position where I was. Like, I have everything, and why can't I be happy? So then you discover transcending your mind is the only way
no
to
it's
reach that peace and happiness.
it's the same thing Jim Carrey also said. It's and
Yeah,
yeah,
Jim
Jim
Carrey said it.
Carrey.
Sorry.
But if I guess what I was trying to say is that, okay, like if, for example, I'm just assuming very logically here that if a person is admiring someone, let it be like a celebrity, they're admiring them for their work, their struggle, and their achievements, or an athlete, like per se, whoever that you admire, whoever like has done those things that you think, or a scientist, anyone, right? They did that because of the things that we talked about here today, mainly stepping outside of the box, having that realization. So I'm just
Because
saying
they
that,
wanted to do it. Yeah.
yes, yes. So I'm just saying that, like as a relatable example, whoever your top three people are, like whoever that you admire. For me, for people that I admire, I see them, I go to their interviews, and honestly, what I can just gather is that they just wanted to do great things. And greatness came with a lot of steps, greatness came with a lot of realization, greatness came with a lot of decisions that their family members did not like, that at one certain point they themselves did not like, but it had to be done because they had to chase greatness or do the things which would define their lives. So that was just a relatable example to you. And yeah, Parmeet, take it away.
Yeah, I think that's it. So, uh, honestly, like if I was listening to this a few years ago, I wouldn't understand it at the level that I do now. Obviously, that I'm able to explain it now. So uh, you might be confused at some stage listening to this podcast, and if you do have any confusions, questions, please let us know. This is something uh, that we want to share with everyone as much as we can, and especially our surrounding, because it will then elevate our whole surrounding and improve our whole surrounding, which is basically our reality, our box, right? So once you first elevate your own box, and then you uh, do it for your surroundings. So that's all we're trying to do. Thank you, everyone, for joining us and listening to this till the end. I absolutely loved this episode, and this was boiling within me for some time. So I wanted to share it with everyone. And Anas had a lot of insights as well that he wanted to share. So we're thankful to you guys to listening, giving us the opportunity to share this and listening to this. And hopefully you got something out of it. Please support us in any way you can. And yeah, we'll see you next Sunday. Thank you.
Ciao, guys.